Here is the picture I promised the Ray have seen of me at the Berlin Wall in Seattle. What I propose to do today isn't to take on the highway being built, the super highway being built by Muscantune, who are pretending to be at odds right now for artificial intelligence to tally up a roster of stories for each and every one of us, which will then be plugged into their God law mountebank casino alchemy computer to determine who was the treason of succulent machines, punish abortion, disenfranchise the liberals, while protecting themselves as heaps of Nazism, really attacking a confused, disabled liberal sophomore, the way Clint Eastwood did with attack prostitutes from a super right wing Jesus cult. It's the limit of tolerance for me. It's really too much. But I'm not going to deal with that right now. What I'm going to deal with is Biden, what the Democrats have done sitting on their hands. And to do that, I need my notes. I may have to turn on and off the light a little bit. Okay. So what we have right now is essentially an attempt to evaluate the Ringo sandwich that has brought us to this deadly and tragic pass in Gaza. The Ringo sandwich, or star sandwich, raises the question of what the civil rights movement is doing, promoting their leadership as affirmative of genocide. And so Martin Luther King's dream was just to have a black woman in charge of extermination programs by colonial settlers. The Hebrew couldn't be more bizarre. They had a presidential candidate who would have had almost anybody with a lewd implant in their psyche conceptualizing Israel as banging the president every night. How can you avoid addressing these issues without enlisting in their program? It's a tragedy. They found buttons for blackout because of fear of blowback. Buttons for blackout for fear of blowback. That's not blowback. That's being attacked. You could even defend the victims and be attacked for defending the victims. You would be attacked for defending the victims, as a matter of fact, under the Democratic program. So, whose side is the civil rights movement on? Let's look at this. Suppose for a minute we entertain the idea that the civil rights movement is on the side of the supernova rave massacre. The ravers at the Blue House in Seattle, the people who are victims of MAGA, which you could argue. So, because there was a lot of like Three Rivers Arts Festival stuff that went on in the 60s and 70s, rock bands performing to raise awareness of causes for peace. Essentially, the whole question that we're into is whether or not alternative media is actually in the interest, acting in the interest, promoting in the interest. People like Savvy Sabs, are they actually in the interest of promoting um, civil rights, human rights, and ecological preservation, climate change action? It's a question, right? Because the Green Party has been implicated in the AIDS attack, the attack on the real rave, the real supernova rave attack, which was backed up by the Trump of nuclear bombs. They have it designated right here in Tacoma. You know, it's an attack. It's a Civil War attack on America using nuclear Trump. Like the word counterfeit and Confederate is synthesized. Who's the real fakes? They say. Like the attack on the presidential palace in Syria was an attack on the idea of the American president. Jimmy C, you know, is a counterfeit, a Confederate. He's the real counterfeit, not the Confederacy. And you find in the language of Pitt, the good kind set up the Alpena scam, had all of these Black Panthers pretending they were Islam. We are Islam, we pronounce. Louis Farrakhan saw the ideation, the imagine of a double fantasy. And you have a whole question of whether or not the civil rights movement is actually on the side of Arab Spring, because they countenance a genocide of the Gaza poor in the name of a rave massacre while ignoring the actual cause of it, while saying black people are going to get ahead. They had people going at Palestinian protesters. What do black people think they're doing? Well, they're trying to clean up at the casino. It, it, they're not. King Gay was used to give them cover for people like Bush and Obama, because Bush is really what they mean by the honorary, the Black Panther. They really is. George Bush is the most honorary Black Panther on earth. Proctor used to say that swastikas were ancient African symbols. You know, and Heinz was an honorary the African. You know, sorry, Teresa, but this is the nitty gritty of the truth. Now, when you look at Zell on Mount Desert Island, Zell and Midori both mean green. And he was convicted of being involved in the AIDS attack. So he confessed. So what you have is Zell representing the lower classes of a certain faction. Like when I typed in Moran Belloc, my computer dropped the G and I got Moran, which was a Lucas character. Well, we know that Lucas was involved with Gail Burston because of the agent Lucarelli who was implanted in my house. Jerry Lucarelli was a vengeful NAM veteran, and Lucarelli's hail from Elmira, where Mark Twain has his study. So, as a museum. So, the Mark, it goes back to corrections, juvenile corrections and stuff. And Elmira is an originator of the program. So, Jerry was a vengeful NAM veteran. And his crowd works with Lucas. The suspicions that Chow Yun-fat was involved in this because of Anna and the King and the grabbing of Midori Goto in two versions pussy ball, Ming No Wen's involvement with me, and a woman named Mi Young Ju, a Korean woman named Mi Young Ju. So we know that Alpena was involved with the Zell program because he was working for Sonia Sundarma. And they used, the Black Panthers used Alpena in Pittsburgh, Cantu Theater, used Black Panthers in Pittsburgh to justify working with this Goebbels character. Zell was a white racist in an Earth First outfit from Jackson Immunogenetic Laboratories. And Duvall admitted that. He said, I know Bush started AIDS and I support him for it. So let's be clear. So Pramila Jayapal is probably Jay Inslee's pal. And Seattle set it up as an ethnic hookah-gramma for a hookah-nimic eugenic pussy bowl word game of advocacy for the good kind. Let's just be clear about what this TikTok war has shown us about Crohag Raguster and David Jeffen, Paul and Yoko. So are they? What does Mercy Hospital do? Mercy Hospital tabulates up abortions that they score on me. They have it a scorecard. We got him. They zap me with these abortions, zap him. And then they say divine justice is coming, queerball. And the Jewish people, like um, Kolker, put up Indian, Native American skulls as symbols of the abortions, right? So, and women can't own up to any of this, so they had nothing to do with it whatsoever. They were me young Jews who were being uh, kidnapped onto public school buses, which Biden insisted the black man get his choice from. So we know that, when you get into the nitty gritty of people like Amira Lee and her gangs involved in the East Palestine vinyl solution in Ohio, that you're talking about Holocaust survivors working with Zell, which means that Zell was representing a faction of lower class women who do get used and abused, and attempting to pin the tail on the idea of sex out of wedlock. When you marry a woman, you stay with her, and you don't imagine double fantasies. IDF. You don't imagine double fantasies. That, according to Wiener, is the treason of succulent machines. You see what Musk is up to with Tune. So, what's their motto is to the winner go the spoils. And that's all there really is to it. They believe in slander and extermination. If you had sex, you're going to pay for it. And they come and follow you and slander you. Okay, so since you've been slandered effectively, you go to the gas chamber. And this is team villainy at work. When you look at the way they attack public schools, you realize that they're not interested in social change. They're not interested in explaining what's happening to anybody. They're attacking wilderness. They're killing off any hope of ecological preservation that there is. There's indications, in fact, see, Kirshner ate cashews, or not whatever these are. There's indications that they're after 1/4 of the human race. Notice that the global, and they do use these kinds of symbols. I'm not making that up. They symbolograph everything because they're claiming, Brian Eno claims that Tamo Jejong was had the sacred insight into he's dead Jim phenomenon. Tammy Simon metamorphosing into androgyny and then going off with the Dalai Lama, using Marianne Steiner signifiers in the Chinese TikTok march, coming onto me through the alpha zone of the feedback loop they're building into video systems with a second virgin while they announce my castration and injection. I mean, they're literally justifying the AIDS attack with this Old Testament artificial intelligence God law system that Musk and Tune have hotwired into with the help of the palace into everything. With China and Russia went along with all this because they're trying to get rid of people. Rather than try to reform people, they bring out the lawnmower. So when you look at the situation, like Amnesty International has this barbed wire candle that turns into a heart. Barbed wire turns into a heart. It shows you that Amnesty International was involved in the AIDS attack because it's the eternal gaslight of their guerrilla theater with Leslie Katz. Barbed wire virginity proves right. Virginity proves right. And they can just announce this accusation over and over again, despite its complete illegitimacy. And Rachel McCloskey will say, we're the Wobblies. We believe in Obama. We're the Wobblies. We believe in Obama. And Seattle will say, let's build momentum for Nosferatu. And wipe out the Blue House. And advertise down the block in Tacoma their participation in the supernova ray. So whose side is the civil rights movement on? They're on Adolf Hitler's side. They're ridiculously stupid.